Lavada, Nahon. I am the owner of a company called Historic Food Works, and I do demonstrations on 18th and 19th and earlier century food. Generally, I don't cook anything. Actually, 19th century is kind of stretching it. I usually stop about 1850. But today I have the privilege of sharing with you some tips about corn, coming from my own experience with the grain, as well as looking at some of these wonderful cookbooks that we have here for sale in our gift shop. I'm originally from Texas, and corn is the grain that I grew up with, where most people would have wheat bread for dinner or something like that. I actually had cornbread every day. And I was in college before I realized you could make it from a mix, but I always made it from scratch. And I've had corn in all of its various forms, whether there was sweet or savory. I've had it in tamales, I've had it grilled, boiled, I've had hominy, I grew up with grits. So corn is one of my favorite grains. But I find I've come across some issues with it here in the mid-Atlantic area. And a lot of that has to do with how we handle it. One of the things I find that without even thinking about it, we lose the sweetness of the corn. Corn is actually a very subtle taste. And I find that often, by the time I am enjoying it, it is too salty. So I had to start investigating. What I've discovered is we start covering up that subtle sweet taste the moment we start cooking it, because we salt the water in the pot. And then we put salted butter on the table. And then we put a salt shaker with the salted butter on the table. And then we start producing recipes that say put sugar in the water with the salt. And put milk in the water with the salt to try to get that sweet taste back. So I'm going to encourage you, please, because this year has been a fabulous corn year, to do two things. One, go shuck some corn at the contest. Even if you don't win, you get locally sourced corn from Wallkill Farm here in Nyack, and it is very, very sweet. And whatever you shuck, you take home. And then take that corn and boil it in plain water. And before you put anything on it, actually taste the corn. You will find you have a very lovely, light, sweet ear of corn. And start there. The next thing that comes up a lot, I'm going to share a couple of recipes with you today, and one is for a very basic corn salad. And from that very basic corn salad, we're going to work it up to be a complete meal. A lot of people have a hard time getting the kernels off the cob, and my current favorite method of doing that I'm going to share with you. And I have a tall plain bowl here, and inside that bowl I have a saucer turned upside down. And you're going to start by taking your knife and cutting the bottom of the corn flat. And then you're going to place it on your saucer. And with the blade of your knife working down, you're going to very lightly saw. And you don't have to go very deep. And you're just going to go right around. And you get these beautiful kernels.
I saw a tip in a magazine last night about putting the ear of corn in a bundt cake pan.
Yes, but how many of you own a bundt cake pan?
But everybody has a bowl in the saucer.
Right, but everyone has a bowl in the saucer. I've seen that tip too, and I've tried it, and the only thing that is that a lot of people don't have the bundt cake pan. And a lot of people don't even know what a bundt cake is. Does everybody know what a bundt cake is? Okay. A bundt cake is a pan that was really popular in the 50s and 60s, and it has a curved dome and a hole in the center. And there's a great scene from my big fat Greek wedding. The woman brings a bundt cake, and there's this whole cultural exchange about what is a bundt cake. The bundt cake ends up with flowers in the center because there's a hole in the cake. It's a really funny scene. But you always have this. Now, I've also seen people use, and I have for a while, dish towels. You put a dish towel down, but then it sticks to the dish towel and you're sitting there flinging it and you end up with corn all over the floor. So like I said, this is my current favorite method. But yeah, you'll find a lot of various tips.
And don't waste your money on that OXO tool because it doesn't work.
Oh, yeah.
Somebody gave that to me. It's awful.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Can you do me a favor and get the trash can, please? And we're going to start with 2 ears of corn here. You don't have to go all the way down, so you don't have to ruin the tip of your knife.
We'll take the cob palms for our recycle. Actually, we'll put it in our compost if you don't mind.
It is, but we also compost here, so thank you.
Oh, perfect. Good.
Native Americans used to actually take the cobs and boil them in water and boil that liquid down and use it for poisoning ivy. Because of course that's cornstarch. You're making a cornstarch solution. And then you're going to take your fingers and just kind of break up those corn kernels a bit. One of the things I find with a lot of corn salads, particularly when we make them overnight, let's say, we make them the day before we're going to serve them and chill them, is that we lose, once again, the flavor of corn because we're adding some very flavorful ingredients with it. Bell pepper, onions, cilantro. That's our basic corn salad that I'm going to be constructing for you. So I would also suggest perhaps you want to start by cutting those amounts of particularly bell peppers in half. If your recipe calls for half a bell pepper, go to a quarter. Because they usually have you add 2 or 3 different colors. So you'll end up with about a whole pepper in there, if not a little bit more if you follow a lot of the current recipes. I find green bell pepper has a really strong taste, and that's the one I tend definitely not to include. If I'm going to add just one, I usually just use a red. And you can do a nice rough chop on that. Add a little bit of the yellow. Orange is also a really nice color to add in. On onions, you have a few choices, but once again, we want to keep the strong flavor of a lot of our onions in mind. I tend to use either scallions or red onions, or a sweet Vidalia onion. Spanish onions are also nice, but your standard yellow onion is a really strong taste.
Since you know about historic food things, can I ask, why is a red onion called a red onion instead of a purple onion? I never heard.
Because there is a purple onion.
There is a purple onion?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. It must be very purple then? Or?
It is darker
Okay.
in color. I actually grew up in Texas, and we have more purple onions there, and it's a sweet onion.
Okay.
But a lot of our the words we use for foods were named so long ago, and we just kind of accept it. For our herb choices, generally we use cilantro. Cilantro is one of those herbs I find that a lot of people either love or hate. So you can use cilantro. If you want a light taste of cilantro, you can use coriander, which is the seed of the cilantro. So you'll go in the cilantro direction, but not so strong. If you don't like cilantro at all, other choices would be a flat leaf parsley or your Italian parsley, or even some basil. But if you use basil, use just a little bit. Once again, you want to watch your strong flavors. We can add a little heat to it with a little jalapeno. I like to seed my peppers. My mother would be appalled.
Mother had a tougher constitution.
She used to cut cayennes and just eat them. But a lot of food in Texas is always very hot. We're going to add just a little bit of lemon juice. And not very much, but I find that it kind of brightens the flavors. And then we're going to add a little olive oil. I use extra virgin olive oil on my salads, and then a little ground pepper. We're going to give that a little toss around. And here you have a very pretty, nice side salad. If you want to, and I often do, especially if I'm making a large quantity of this for a party, I'll start with about 12 or 15 ears of corn. I'll go ahead and remove all the kernels from the corn, but I will make the salad only with about half of it. I'll refrigerate the other half, and then right before I serve it, I'll go in and mix in that which is not refrigerated with the rest of the ingredients. That way you have a nice fresh taste of corn right on top. It won't have saturated the other flavors, so you're not losing it as well. From here, we can build this into a full meal. The tradition with corn to create a complete protein is just to add beans. In this area, we use a lot of black beans. I actually grew up with pinto beans. I use any of the firmer beans, whether that's black, pinto, Roman, your small whites, your pinks, your kidney beans. I tend not to use camelani beans, butter beans, or garbanzo beans. That's just a texture preference. We can add a few other things. We can cut in some tomatoes. I like using the small tomatoes, but you can go ahead and chop like a nice beefsteak or any of your heirlooms. But for your larger tomatoes, I would say seed them first. If you're going to make this when tomatoes are not at their most flavorful, I take a can of roughly chopped tomatoes and then just drain them really well. We can add some cucumber in. On the locally grown cucumbers, or if you grow them in your yard, I find that the skin is just a little heavy. So I just go ahead and peel it. I also remove the seeds. Give that a rough chop. A nice thing to add a bit of sweet is to add a mango into there as well. If I'm going to add avocado, however, I don't put it in the actual salad. I either pile it right on top or sprinkle it around the edges, and that's right before I serve it. I often make this in large, couple of days worth. This is a salad that I leave in the refrigerator. My family can come and eat it whenever they would like a little something. It's a great filling for a burrito. If you want to have a lunch that you can just quickly take with you that's a little bit substantial, you can add a little bit of cheese to this. It's really nice. Add some lettuce to it. But anything that's going to aerate and change colors or get mushy on you, like avocado, I would say just top it off, right? So you can just take a plate. Add a little lettuce to that. Nice base. You can top it off with some sour cream, some salsa. A sprig of something on the top. Extra tomatoes on the side. And there you have a very nice lunch. Does anyone have any questions? One thing that we do for corn a lot is to serve it with just butter, salt, and pepper. It gets kind of boring after a bit. So here for you, I have actually some recipes of some great toppings that you can make. And the first one I'm going to do for you today is called an Italian charm. So we're going to take some fresh basil, which is right in our garden. You're welcome to go in the garden, by the way. There's a map in that small box. I believe Linda is in there to help you today. And some parsley leaves. We're going to give those a rough chop.
Thank you.
You can use fresh garlic with this, or you can use a garlic powder. It's about a teaspoon worth of garlic, or as you prefer. Then we're going to add in a little olive oil. Give that a bit of a stir. And just think of your corn coming right out of that hot pot or right off the grill. And you're going to take that and just brush it right on. Have a nice herbed corn to serve instead of just plain butter and salt and pepper. So, does anyone have any questions? You're welcome, and thank you for coming. Thank you for enjoying CORNucopia, and have a great day.